All right, I think I'm live. So welcome. Let's give this a try. I've got numbers fired up here and ask me some questions. Also, let me know how my audio is. How does it sound? Am I coming through? Ask away. Cool. Thanks for the sound feedback. Now, what would you guys like to know about numbers? I've been doing a lot of videos on numbers recently, and seems like people really like them. Um, yeah, everything is good here, just at home. I have a teenager who's going to school from home, so on her computer, and we're just in here only heading out for shopping trips and occasionally walking the dog uh, with mask on and 6 feet away from everybody. Integration with Zoho. I don't know what Zoho is, so no, I'm guessing. Create a list of functions that numbers can use. Well, I mean, there is a list of functions in numbers. If you go, there's many ways to get to it. Usually when you start with a formula here, I'll hit the equals key for formula, then you get a functions list on the right, and then everything is here, all the functions. Matter of fact, one of the best ways to learn is to simply just go through everything function by function and read the descriptions. Unlike a lot of Apple's documentation, the numbers functions documentation is actually really good. When keyboard and mouse stopped, how can we know? Well, it's not really a numbers question, but I mean, I usually try disconnecting and reconnecting the mouse. Usually it would be a hardware problem, I would guess. Try a different mouse. That would be the thing. If it's a hardware problem, a different mouse would work fine. Let's see. You really can't create a customized data input window in numbers. Really, you just got to enter it here into the table itself. I mean, you can do some workarounds, but the easiest way is just to enter it in. Think of every row as a record and enter in all the data across in the proper columns. So adding numbers and minutes, usually it works. It just works like numbers. So you need to know kind of the time format to enter a time. For instance, if you do like 1:00, look at the bottom left here, which you can't see because I'm in the way. Let's move me out of the way here. See how I entered in 1:00 and I hit return and I go into it. It says actual and then it shows a date there. So that's not it. What you want is a duration. So hours, minutes, seconds, or HMS. So if I would do 5H like that, and I look at it, you can say it says actual 5H. It's 5 hours. I can do 5 hours space, 6 minutes space, 7 seconds space. And you can see it says actual 5 hours, 6 minutes, 7 seconds. I can do something over here like 5S for 5 seconds. And I just add them together like numbers. So equals, and then this plus this. And you can see it gives me the addition of those two durations. I can't think of a way to integrate Shopify unless Shopify actually like has output. Like you could export from Shopify as a spreadsheet and then import it into numbers. Other than that, live integration, I don't think there is a way. Create contacts and print them out as address labels. No really good way to do that. Did you know that the address, or I'm sorry, the contacts app actually has the ability to do that? So enter all your contacts in here, create a group or just select the ones that you want. And when you go to print in the Contacts app, you can do mailing labels. And it actually lets you choose from all that. Other than that, if you want something more specific, there are a bunch of label printing apps in the Mac App Store, and that's probably the best thing to use. Numbers has more than 256 columns right now because the new version, version 10, just increased that. So if we do what's new in numbers here, support for larger tables. Let's look at the complete list here. And now the tables, 1 million rows and 1,000 columns. So that's the new value there, the new number of columns you can do in numbers. No, you can't pull data from different files. You can go different sheets in the same document, of course, but not from different files. So if you want to create like a system, what you want to do is create a single document, create multiple sheets in that document. You can get Automator to do lots with numbers. I've done some things in the past. Like, for instance, let's see. Actually, it's more not so much Automator, but it's using scripting. So you can script it in Automator, or you can use Script Editor. So script numbers. Let me just find the video for you, and it's got some code with it. So creating a form in Mac numbers using the script. There's one for, let's see. So this populating a Keynote presentation from a number spreadsheet using JavaScript is useful. You don't need to use the keyboard, the Keynote part of it. You can just use the part that's just grabbing stuff from numbers. So if you go into that, there's a script here, and the script here gives you an idea of how to actually grab stuff from numbers and take that, and then you could set it to things as well. So it's kind of a starting point for you there. How do you fix a formula without deleting it? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean like editing it? Because you can go in, double click on it, and then you can edit it, put the cursor wherever you want, and change things. Use the arrow keys, go back and forth, delete things, add things, whatever you need. Is that what you mean by fix? Yeah, creating the invoice one I had was really popular. This one, creating an invoicing system in numbers. This was a really good one. I'll let people watch that video, but it basically is using multiple tables and pulling stuff from those tables to create kind of an invoice on one sheet from data in another. It teaches you how to not only do that, go across sheets and stuff, but how to keep a database in a single table and then be able to pull things from it. Yeah, so Paul's asking how to edit a formula. And yeah, I mean, just like I showed before, just double click on it and you go right back into editing mode here, and you can move the cursor around, edit things, do what you want. Yeah, in terms of formulas, I mean, really, you go into edit mode here and you come up with the functions list. And I definitely do think, like I said at the top of the broadcast here, that it is worth it to go through these. You don't need to spend that much time on them. It looks like a lot right here. I have all selected. Let me move myself over to the other corner. I have all selected here. So it looks like a lot, but a lot of these you can glance at and know that you don't need them. Like right here, accrued interest on security that pays periodic interest. You can say, okay, I don't need to know that. So what's the next one? And keep going down until you hit something that's interesting. like the address function or something like that. So you can go through these really, spend an hour and you could probably go through and see most of the ones that you want here. The examples are really good at the bottom. Like it's very uncharacteristic for Apple to provide good documentation. Like if you've ever looked at the Apple script or JavaScript documentation or things like that, it's it's very hard to get into. But the numbers formula documentation is excellent. And you go in here, these examples are like really good examples, and they show you exactly how to use it, and you can experiment with them. And then once you go through once, it kind of sticks in your head. You may not remember the function name and you may not remember exactly how it's used, but you know it's there. And when you need something, you kind of think, oh, okay, there is something there. Let me search for it. And you can use this search field to search for keywords inside the description, and you could find what you're looking for. But you have to kind of go through it that first time just to get a feel for what's present. How do you stop your spreadsheet from floating? Do you mean like this? Like where it floats in, like, this column here is frozen? There's a freeze header rows, freeze header columns. That's under tables. So I can select, I'm editing the formula there. Just select the table and you go to table and then freeze header rows, freeze header columns. And now that won't happen. Well, that was the wrong one, freeze columns. And now you can see that won't happen. But as far as floating is concerned, do you mean just moving around like this? Or do you mean when you insert something else? And there's really no way to like freeze it in place. It's always going to move if you ask it to move. How do you print a number spreadsheet with the grid lines showing? Let's see. If you go to print, I mean, it should print right there. I just hit Command P and it should print those grid lines unless you tell it to turn off. I'm trying to think if there is I mean, obviously, if you turned off the grid lines in the table, it won't print. Let's see. Print. Don't think there's a way to actually turn off grid lines. So I'm not sure what kind of problem you're having there. Yeah, I did go to University of North Carolina. I got my master's degree in journalism there, 1994. Can you use filters on iOS devices? Well, I can't really show that, but I have my iPad here. Yeah, I believe numbers filters are part of numbers. And to get to it, let's see. I'll just start a new document here. Sorry, I can't show this easily. But if I wanted to go and create a filter, I would go to the organize section. Let's see. Yeah, so there's at the top, you see, a paintbrush and then a circle with 3 lines in it, then a plus button, etc. Hit the circle with the 3 lines in it, and that brings up category, sort, and filter. So now you can go into filters and then add a filter there. That's in the iPad version of it right there. Pull stock data into numbers. No, there's not really. I did a video recently on doing it in Google Spreadsheets. So let's see. Google Stocks, I think, should bring it up. Let's see. Maybe not. Yeah, using, let's see, I was, maybe that was something I did in my Patreon. But basically, the idea is you can get live stocks in Google Sheets. So use Google Sheets is one thing to do. And then you can use, there's like Google Stocks is like the function or something like that. And then you can just do it in Google Spreadsheets, but you can also copy and paste from there. So you can kind of have your live information in your Google Sheet, and then you can copy and then paste the values into your number spreadsheet when you need to. It's not ideal, but that's the best you can do. Otherwise, you've got your daily stocks, using the daily function in numbers. I mean, you're just asking, so this is Larry who's asking, easy way to pull stock data numbers. I mean, if you don't want live data, you don't need like up to the minute stuff. It's just, the stock stuff here. So I can look here at stock and stock H, which stock is stock history. So I can use the stock function here, AAPL, and then I could select what I want, price or whatever. And that's going to give me, there's Apple's current stock price as of opening this morning, right? So that won't update until tomorrow. So yeah, you can pull it in. Matter of fact, you can do AAPL here as the stock ticker, and then I could go in here. I'll click Edit as Formula, and instead of having that in quotes, I can grab it from that cell next to it. So now you could see AAPL. I can copy these two cells, paste them here, and change this to something else like AT&T is T. I can paste it again. I can do Tesla. There's the stock price there. Whatever you want. So you can kind of create this, but these are just daily stocks, not up to the minute ones. Microsoft Teams from Apple. Microsoft Teams, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that since I don't use Microsoft Teams. I mean, you can collaborate with numbers. Is that what you mean? How can you search and highlight the highest value in a table? Let me see here. That's a good one. The highest value in a table. Let me go and create some numbers here. So I will do rand between, and let's say 0 and 99. And I'll copy and paste that into a bunch of values there. I'm going to copy it again and then paste formula results. Now I have a bunch of static numbers here. So the idea is, how do I find out which one is the highest? Well, off the top of my head, one thing you could do is you could see if you could put it kind of a function next to this to check the maximum. Let's see here. Max. Largest returns as largest number. So what I'll do is I will say, okay, so large is another one you may want to use, but let's use max. So max will turn the largest number in a collection. So I can do max and then give me the maximum of column B. And that says it's 94. 94 is down here. So what I could do here is say, if the value there is equal to the maximum in that column, then say max, otherwise blank. Okay, and I can copy this and paste it and all that there. And you can see, oh, there's actually two 94s, so I get two maxes there. So I could highlight that. Hopefully that's enough there, but you could always apply conditional highlighting to max right there to have that highlight. And you can go further if you want to, but this probably gets you what you need. Easiest way to delete files in the trash bin that take forever. There is no quicker way to delete files in the trash bin. Just delete them and then get on with whatever you're doing, because you don't have to wait for it to finish. So just let it delete. I haven't really run into a problem where it takes that long to delete trash files. I mean, maybe if I have like thousands of files in there, because I've thrown away some big project and there's a ton of little files, maybe it takes 10 minutes or something to delete, but I don't wait for it. I just keep working on what I'm working on. How do I get access to the Mac hard drive and the root user account? Not really sure what you're looking for there. I mean, you have access. Are you looking for access to the system? Because the system's read-only in Catalina. I'm not sure why you I need to know more, but that's not a numbers question anyway. So let's look here. Could you sort with the highest value on top? Sure. So here's this list of numbers here. You can go and click at the top to say sort, and you can do sort ascending, which will give you the lowest value on the top, or sort descending, giving you the highest value on the top. Also, if you have that selected and you go to organize and you go to sort, you can say sort the entire table by column B, and you could say ascending or descending. Can the format of a cell be controlled conditionally? No. No, the formatting, like the text formatting over here, that's just something that's kind of hard coded into the cell itself. It doesn't react to the value of the cell or some other cell. But you can do the conditional highlighting. So for instance, I can go in here and select all of row B, and I could say under organize, let's see, actually where's conditional formatting? It is under cell conditional highlighting, right? So then I could add a rule. So I could say if it's equal to 47, then make it bold. So, I mean, I guess this, right there, I've made it bold. But there's only a limited number of things you can do. You can do bold, red, green, orange, fill. You can do custom style, which actually gives you a lot. So, you can do colors, color fill, and italics, bold, that kind of thing. So you can't change everything about the format, but you can change some things. Like, there you go. So anything that's 47 will now be like that. So conditional highlighting does give you most of what you want, hopefully. Can numbers replace Microsoft 365? Well, Excel from Microsoft and Numbers are really two different apps that are similar in that they're both spreadsheet apps, but they do a lot of different things. The thing I like about Numbers most of all is this idea of tables, creating multiple tables and having this sheet, this empty white sheet that you could put tables and put charts, arrange things really nicely, put text boxes, everything. And Excel is just like, it's just a grid, right? Every sheet is just a grid from the top left to the bottom right. Excel, though, is more powerful in that there are some more functions, so some more obscure functions. Like 99% of the functions you need are in both, but Excel's got some things that Numbers doesn't. And there's some Visual Basic type of scripting types of things that Excel can do. And there's also compatibility. If somebody is heavily into spreadsheets and heavily using Excel on Windows and they're creating really complex Excel spreadsheets and you need to communicate with them often about their spreadsheets, there's probably no substitute to using Excel. So you're using exactly the same thing they're using. But in general, if you're using Excel for things and you want to just switch to using Numbers and there's nobody else involved, in most cases, Numbers can do what you need. A Sudoku solver in Numbers. Boy, I'm going to have to think about that. Interesting. So, it's not going to be easy. I mean, especially if you're going to enter in the Sudoku like numbers into kind of a table there, then you are going to have it automatically try to figure it out. That's going to be tough. There's a lot of conditions there. It might be possible, but certainly nothing I can work out right here. So, yeah, I mean, wow. It's going to be tough to do to figure out all the different variables. Certainly you can do it with a program, because I know because I've done that before. I have a Sudoku app in the App Store, and part of creating that Sudoku app was to actually, be able to show you the solution and give you hints and stuff. But that's all done with programming. I don't know if you could do it with just pure formulas in Numbers. Perhaps, but it will take a lot of thought. No, you cannot reference a cell from another Numbers file. It has to be in the same Numbers file. Oh, okay. So you did one, you did a Sudoku solver, but it didn't fill in the number. So you had like like you could say, I want the number for this cell and fill it in. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be a step along the way. But again, I'd really have to think about it. That's going to take some time to figure out if that's possible to do with the cells in place. So default styles for a table, yes, I think so. So let's create a new document here. And let's say I'm going to do something different with this table style here. So let's say, I don't know if I could change the number of rows and columns, make the font size a little bit bigger, do a, let's see, outline that's unusual, like that, um, alternating row colors, and then let's set some things up like these cells. I'll do color fill like that. I don't know. So we have something like that. Now, you definitely can set it up where you can save this, right? So here I am under Format, Table. I go over here and I add this style. So now if I were to create like a new sheet here, yeah, the default's there, but I can quickly, all I need to do is click once right there. Bam, and it changes it to that default style. Now the question is there a way to do it? So you can this default style here, the one at the top left, I can redefine style from selection. See what I'm doing there? Okay, now let's create a new sheet. Ah, there you go. So the new sheet used that first style. So the key is to set it up like you want. Go to the table styles here, control click on it, and then redefine style from selection. And you can create a new default style to be used here, at least inside this sheet. Now, then I could save as a template and then save this to my template chooser and choose that template, or even make that the default template. And now you've got everything you need. And the same thing with text styling here. You should be able to, select this. There's paragraph style. Let's make that bold. And then I could update that style. And now paragraph style is set to that. And if I save that as part of the template, it should stick with it. Okay, so is there a way to count the number of columns and rows? It's a good question. Let's see. So if I want to get the number of columns, let's look here. This is all I would do if I'm doing this. I don't have all these formulas memorized, all these functions memorized. So let's see. So this function, the columns function, returns the number of columns included in a specified collection of cells. So let's try that. And there's the range. And I'm going to choose the whole table. Let's see if I could do that. Table 1. Let's see if it lets me. No. No, it didn't let me do that. Table 1. Right, so I can do like A1 to D7, right? And that would give me 4. But what I want is to be the entire thing. So what if I did like A999? Ah, no, that didn't work either. Because what I really want is I want the entire thing. I mean, I could select the entire thing, but at that point, what's the point there? I mean, I guess if you do the entire thing like that, it does give you 7. Let's see, if I expand this, see, it doesn't include that in there. So kind of fails there. let me see if there's a table function. So maybe, depending upon what you want, it might work. I mean, if you just want to grab everything, I mean, if I could just do Command A to grab all there. So I can do, no, that's not going to work. I mean, I guess you can use columns to do it, but it's not really very dynamic. It's not really going to tell you, it's not going to expand as you expand the table unless you go and change it. But I guess if you've got a ton of columns and just counting them is tough, and the letters goes to like column WW, how many columns is that? You can use this to simplify the calculation, I guess. In the sheet format. I mean, yeah, I mean, so this is about printing with grid lines. I mean, if you go over to table and then if you turn off grid lines here for tables, right? Is that what you're talking about? Um, uh, let's see. I mean, if you turn off grid lines, of course, then it's going to print what you see there. So you've got to turn on the grid lines in order to print. But they're on by default, so I don't know if that's exactly what Albert was asking. What's the scripting language for numbers? Well, you can script it using AppleScript or JavaScript in either the script editor that comes with your Mac or Automator. Script editor is better because you have a little library and some help and stuff, and you could just write scripts. Automator includes these little draggable actions and stuff. I've got some tutorials on that, so like. If you search like on MACMOST for numbers stuff, you come up with, search for script and numbers, you'll come up with some examples of me scripting numbers so you can kind of get the hang of what's in there. And you can search online too, and people have posted scripts. I like to use JavaScript because JavaScript's a modern programming language that looks like other modern programming language, and AppleScript is kind of something that looks like an old kind of early 90s hypercard type of thing, which I loved originally, but AppleScript kind of really feels outdated. It's not really like anything else out there now that anybody's using, and it's very unforgiving. I mean, you could have a line that looks like it's perfect, and this is exactly, it should work, and there's just like, you need the word the, or maybe you don't need the word the, or it's just a slightly different verb or noun or something in there, and it just doesn't work, and it really doesn't give you a good explanation of why it's not working. And so, I really kind of hate AppleScript. And JavaScript I like. And if you learn how to use JavaScript, then JavaScript is used on web pages. It's used in various other scripting environments and stuff. So it's kind of more useful. So let's see. Lewis wants to highlight the highest expense. So instead of one column, many columns. Well, it actually should work. So if you want to highlight the highest one, that's tough because what you would need is an extra column in between everything. So let's create some more random numbers here. Let's say so here's the thing. You could go and take this max formula here and you could add this column to it, right? So let me put one here. It's 99. Okay, so now I'm going to paste that same formula here. Oh, I didn't grab it. Paste it here and paste it here. And now you can see it's finding the maximum between these two columns. So the idea is maybe this column's kind of like a little thing that's just showing the maximum like that. And then whatever the maximum is, so like if I made this like 109, you can see the maximums there. It didn't seem to pick up on the change. Oh yeah, no, I did my bad. So let's grab this here. I'm going to, let me update this formula here. I want it to preserve the column in both of these. So it's always looking in B and D. Now I paste it here, I paste it here, and it's always going to show me the max between these columns. So I'll change this to 1 to 110, and you can see the max floats around. So you just have to have this little column next to it that is just the indicator of what the maximum is. That said, I wouldn't arrange something like this because the idea is in a table in numbers, you want each row to represent a single record. So if you're tracking expenses, then it should be a single expense across that row instead of like maybe having them be across. But maybe I don't know, maybe you have like this column is, this is the expense, and this is like if it's travel related, it goes here, and the number goes here, and if it's office related, it goes here. So you wouldn't have like the same ones in both. You would put it in the column that made sense. I wouldn't do it that way either. I would instead have like the what's the amount here, and then I'd have another column where it was like the type, and I'd have like office, travel, etc. And if I needed to do a sum of that, I would use SUMIFS to sum up all the office ones or all the travel ones. Yes, you can link a cell from one sheet to another. Let's go and create another sheet here, and let's put some numbers in here. And let's say I wanted to have this value in this sheet here. So I could say, equals, like I'm doing a formula, then go over to this sheet. You can see I'm still entering the formula. Click on this cell here. So it says sheet 2, table 1, B4. And then I'll hit the check mark there, and you can see it has that value in there. So I go to sheet 2 here. I'll change this from 8 to 99. And I go back to sheet 1, and I can see that's 99. So this is just a simple formula just saying, give me the exact value of what's in there. I can make it more complex. I can add 1 to it. I can perform a function on it. I can, do all sorts of things. But that is the basics. You don't have to worry about where cells are. They don't need to be in the same table. Just as you're entering in the formula, you click on the cell, like click on that cell plus this cell plus go to sheet 2, click on this cell, and then hit the check mark, and it's going to use the values from all those cells no matter what sheet they're on. Yes, Jack is doing great. A little confused as to why everybody is home all the time, yet he doesn't seem to be able to go for as many walks as before. But he, that's probably really the only reason I get out of the house at all is to take him for short, socially distanced walks. And then he gets really disappointed when I don't let him get near other dogs or other people. So maybe not as happy as he usually is, but he is great. No, I don't offer a GarageBand course. GarageBand's tough because, first of all, it's a huge app. It does so many different things, right? So there have to be whole sections on like software instruments and like doing the notes and all. Other whole sections on like recording instruments, editing, the drummer functionality, all sorts of stuff. It would be a huge course. But here's the problem. A lot of that really has to do with if you're musical, if you play an instrument. Because there are people that like they use GarageBand a lot, and the whole thing is they play guitar and they want to know how to record multiple tracks and do all that stuff. I can't play, so it's really hard for me to go and do a course on it. If I was taking a course on, how to use GarageBand, I'd want like a musician to be teaching me how to actually do it. And since I'm not a musician, it kind of would be like, I don't know, somebody who didn't really know math teaching a math course, or somebody who didn't have any talent in dancing being your dance instructor. So that's why I've stayed away from a GarageBand course. As far as a cheat sheet, I mean, besides the function stuff here, where you start entering a function, you go in here. I mean, all these functions really are everything. Um, but yeah, I see what you mean. Like, for instance, under text, how would you know that? See how I have, let's do two words, hello and world, and I could do equals, and I could do hello, and then I could do ampersand, right? And then world, and it concatenates the two of them together. Where is that? Let's see if Numbers Help has anything about that. They would be called operators. So if I go into table of contents here, well, there's a string. Using string operators and wildcards, I mean, this would include the string operators. Uh, but there's not much here. Let's see if I search for operators. No, not really. So not offhand. I mean, basically it comes down to plus, minus, divide, multiply is the asterisk key, and then ampersand for concatenating strings. That might be an idea for a future video or chart or something. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that and see if there is some sort of, there's got to be something in the help, you would think. And if I go to formulas and functions help, let's see, formulas, functions, it's just more of that same stuff. Refer to cells and formulas. Yeah. Boy, off the top of my head, I can't think of any good reference for the operators. Names to ranges or columns or rows. So I don't really do that, I think, what you're talking about. I mean, typically I find it useful to make sure you name your table. So like if this was like the expenses, you name that expenses, and then you name, use the header column and header row. So you would do, this would be lunch or something like that. And then this cell here, when you refer to it, is the expenses table, the amount lunch. Like if I do equals and I click on it, you can see it says amount lunch, and it actually doesn't show it's the expenses table because I'm in the same table, right? But if I were to go to another table, like here, and enter in a formula, go over to here and click there, now I can look here, and well, it actually doesn't say that there either. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Maybe if I name this table, I guess because maybe these are only used here. Let's see if I do. Oh. Amount. No. Well, it's still I don't know exactly when these names come into play, but they seem to come into play a lot using those. But I don't name the ranges or anything like that. I've done a couple live streams before. I did some when Apple Arcade launched, just playing some of the Apple Arcade games because I thought people might want to see those. And I did one or two in years past, just answering general questions. But I had the idea, just seeing all the people teaching online through this pandemic, that maybe I should do some, but have them focused. So like do one where I answer numbers questions or keynote questions or something like that. And I decided to give it a try today, just to see. How do you do SUMIF with two columns, but in a specific date range? So two columns. So SUMIF. So you would have I'm not sure what you mean by 2 columns. I mean, you would do a date range like, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, 4-4, like that, and you would do. And if you want to do a sum if of these, you could do something like this, sum if, and you would do some ifs with an S. And then if you look in the functions over here, you would see sum ifs allows you to do multiple, it's sum values, test values, condition test values, etc. So you do the sum values. So you do C. That's the values I want to add up. Then the test values would be B. And then I'd want them to be less than, let's say greater than or equal to 4-2-2020. And if I just stopped there, I would get everything. I would get the 3, 6, 3, 8. Right? Is that right? Oh, no, and the 8 there. So these there. If I change it to like greater than or equal to 4-3, you can say I get 20. Now I can continue to add conditions. So I would add another let's test B again, but this time let's test it for equal to or less than or equal to for 5-2020. And now I get only a 12 because it's 3, 6, 3 right there. So that's how I do it within a range. And if you wanted to do a category, you could do that as well. So let's say the category was here. And, I'll just do category A, B, B, A, like that. And I could add another one here. I'll add it first. So I do there. And let's say A. And this is going to be equal to A. Or just A. Like that. So now I'm saying A has to be, row A has to be category type A. And the date's got to be greater than or equal to this and less than or equal to that. So let's see, where did I go wrong? C, B, A equal to A? No. Go back to this. Okay, there's 12. We put it at the end here. Try again. Test values would be that, and they would have to be A. Oh, okay, so I don't know where I typed wrong before, but you can see I'm only getting the A values now. So I only get 6 because this is the only one that actually fits in there. So subtotals within a column and a grand total at the bottom. Not sure what you mean by that. I mean, you could do as many footer cells. Let's see, insert. Well, I'm just going to go and create some footers here in the table. There it is. We'll create 2. I mean, you could do, obviously the sum for that column. Where'd that come from? There you go. So like that sums up the column, but I'm not sure what you mean, John, by the subtotals within a column and a grand total at the bottom. Grand total like across, like so you would have, more numbers here, like that, and then a grand total like to the right there. You can do, sum and then add these like that. You could do a second. See, I did 2 footer column, 2 footer rows there. So you can do sum and then do those like that. Either way. Thanks everybody for the nice compliments. By the way, I'm reading everything. Yeah, advance notice. Thought about this and I was like, oh, it's so hard to commit and say like it's Wednesday. I'm going to commit to like 10 o'clock on Friday to doing it because then things come up, especially right now. Things can easily come up. So I hesitate to commit. Maybe I should just commit and then realize that, well, if I have to, something comes up, I can cancel. But probably nothing will come up and I'll be able to commit to it. So, oh, so a subtotal, like from categories. Ah, okay. Well, the way I would do it like that is let's add, so we have these A and B here. Okay, so I've got, let me just do a new sheet here. So let's say I've got categories. So I'll do like cat 1, have a bunch of those, and cat 2, and a bunch of those, and maybe some cat 3, 2 of those, right? And then you would have, right, so then I would add, so I have 3 categories. So what I could do here is add 3 footer rows if I wanted to. This is just one way to do it. I don't know how many categories you're dealing with. And I can have cat 1, cat 2, cat 3, and actually I'm going to add another footer row here. Let me move these up and put total. So I can do equals sum if, and I could say the sum of these if this is equal to that, right? So the sum, this cell here is going to be the sum of all these, where the category over here on the left is equal to the value right here just to the left of this. And didn't work because I probably got the sum if function wrong. Test values condition sum values. So yeah, it's a little different than the sum ifs. And so it'll be like that, right? There, 98 for cat 1, cat 2, cat 3. Where's it going wrong? Let's see here. Oh, I don't want it to preserve the row. So now 98. Now there's 22 and that. And then this can just be totally equal to the sum of the whole thing. Like that. Trace formulas. I'm not sure quite what you mean, but if you click on here, you notice that the formula at the bottom, which you can't quite see because I'm in the way, shows the colors there, and you could see where the different colors match up to that. Oh, and just to get back to this categories example here, the way I would do it if like there were a lot of categories is I would have a separate table, maybe even another sheet, where I would list each category. So I would basically do the same thing here. I would just have these categories like that. But you could have, 20 different categories. And then I would just do, sum if, and then this matches that, like that, right? And then the great thing is with this is I could add another, cat 4 and put something there. And then all I got to do is add cat 4, copy and paste it, and I get that there. So then this would be my like, sum, table here, or category sum, or whatever you want to call it. And then maybe I would still have the total here at the bottom, or I could do a footer row here and have the total there at the bottom. A lot of ways to do it. Print a selected area. That's tough. Really, numbers isn't really built for printing. If I go to print here, you could see, it's kind of like that. There's not too much you can do. One of the ways you can do it is you can go and say print, or just hit the print button here, and then open in preview. And then in preview here, you can, just maybe, just say, oh, you want to print this one page there, or you can do the markup there and kind of crop things like you want. So now I've got a cropped version in preview, and then I can hit the print button in preview. So that's a kind of a quick, dirty way to do it. If you're creating some sort of process that you really want to have a printable thing, what I usually do is create a sheet that has all the stuff to print. So like for instance here I created this table 1 and this summary table. What I would do here is I would copy the summary table, and maybe I would put it on this 5th sheet here. This is the summary table, so it's not here. So maybe this is my big database that goes on for like a million, thousands of rows. And then this is the summary, and the summary looks really great in a printout. I think we're almost at an hour here, so I'm just going to take maybe another question or two, and then we'll call it. An hour, good test, and people like it. Guess we'll get back. Looks like we've got 57 viewers right now. I didn't look to see if there was a peak at some point, but that's great. That's far better than what I expected, and it was pretty easy to set this all up, get this going with my face in the corner here. Yes, I did set this to save to YouTube, so this should be available as like a regular video on YouTube afterwards, hopefully. Header titles slanted. I know what you mean, because you can do that on charts, right? You can have these things slanted. And no, there's really no way to do it. I mean, if you had a small enough chart here, you could go and create text, create a text box, do something like that. With the text box here, I can go in and I can go to arrange, and I can rotate that to something good like 45 degrees. I can put that in here, at the top, and then maybe hide this row here, right? So now I've done that. You just got to do it for each one. So very doable if you have 5 or 10 columns, and this is something important and you really want it to look good. Very doable to be able to just duplicate your headers with bits of text like that. If it's something you just need to be doing all the time and the tables are really complex, it gets to be a pain. So it's not something that's automatic, but thanks to these like the text and shapes and things here, you can do almost anything you want. So on that question, I think I'm going to end this before this gets to be an hour and looks like really big on YouTube. Thanks everybody for participating in this. As I said, I will try to make this something that appears live, like like as a video you can rewatch. And thanks everybody, and especially for my patrons. Thanks as always for your support. I'm so grateful.